What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And as we get ready for our Week 9 matchup against the New York Giants, I just wanted to pop in and make a quick video because it seems like our beloved Washington Commanders are at the center of the NFL universe yet again. It seems like it's been like that since the Hail Mary. Honestly, it seems like it's been like that since Jalen Daniels has started to take the league by storm. But with the trade deadline coming this Tuesday, it seems like there's a lot of trade wins and news circulated around our beloved football team. But before we get too deep into this video, you already know what I'm going to say. Be sure to comment, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the latest updates or any of the latest content on your Washington Commanders, where we give you the most raw, uncut, and unfiltered analysis over here at Bleeding B&G. And without further ado, man, let's get into this video. It truly is a new day in Washington. Like, Dan Snyder is gone. And Josh Harris told you in his press conference, I'm not sure if it was last year or earlier this offseason, when that NFLPA report card came through, he said, I'm not an F- guy. And he has done nothing but put his money where his mouth is, figuratively and literally. If we look at the stadium improvements, if we look at, the things being done with the team, like the VR being equipped with Jalen Daniels' progression and his development and things of that nature, he's really put his money where his mouth is. And it seems like the rest of the NFL landscape and the entire NFL is starting to take notice. And what I mean by that is a little over an hour ago, our guy Adam Schefter, who's the most plugged in insider in the NFL, actually dropped a bombshell of a report on this Week 9 eve. I'm over here getting ready for the New York Giants game, and Adam Schefter is going to hit us with a Shefty bomb where he says that sources say that players want to be traded to our beloved Washington Commanders at the deadline. So or if you don't know, the trade deadline is Tuesday, November 5th, the same date as the election. So there's going to be a lot going on in America that day. But Schefter dropped this bomb on us tonight as we get ready for Week 9, where he says that players are starting to take notice that Josh Harris isn't an F- guy, and starting to take notice that things are really taking a turn for the better in Washington. Not only are we winning off the field at 6-2 going into our Week 9 matchup, winning on the field, at 6-2 going into our Week 9 matchup, but we're winning off the field as well. Word to Bruce Allen. If you know, you know. But let's get into this article because it's not the only piece of news that actually came out regarding the trade deadline and our Washington Commanders today. So as I read this article, it says, here's a sentence that hasn't been written or uttered this century since before Dan Snyder owned the NFL franchise. Players want to wind up in Washington playing for the Commanders. And it's kind of crazy seeing Adam Schefter be the one to report this or to type that sentence, because if we know, Dan was his homeboy in the media. Dan went to Adam Schefter when he wanted to get cupcake interviews and things of that nature. If we can remember, I think it was the 2020 interview with Tanya Snyder, where Adam Schefter didn't ask him barely any questions. It's almost as if Tanya, ran the interview. So to see Adam type that first sentence is kind of wild. But enough about Dan the Dweeb Snyder. He's so far in the past, I ain't really worried about him. Hopefully he's in a Port-au-France somewhere, living his worst life. But it says, in recent weeks, there have been players who probably stated or told their agents that they want to be traded to the Commanders. Oh my God. I used to pray for times like this. Word to Meek Mill. Word to Meek Mill. I have never seen this. I'll be 29 in about 3 weeks. I have never seen this sentence. I've never read this sentence, seen this sentence spewed. And y'all know I'm tapped into every sports media outlet. I don't miss anything on our beloved Washington Commanders. I ain't never heard a player say that they wanted to come to Washington. Never. And the article goes on to say that it's possible that the Commanders could comply by Tuesday's 4 p.m. trade deadline. The Commanders have explored adding a cornerback and also adding help at wide receiver, according to sources. But even if the Commanders can't complete any trades by the deadline, the fact that there's certain players would like to land in Washington bodes well for the franchise in free agency and for years to come. And I'm glad that Adam touched on that, because even if we don't make moves by the trade deadline on Tuesday, we still got 9 draft picks and we still got over $100 million in cap space. So the Washington Commanders are going to be contenders for years to come. If nobody has told you, you heard it here first over here at Bleeding B&G, because the proof is in the pudding. You see it set in stone that we're about to start attracting elite talents. I've never heard Washington be a free agent acquisition. A free agent destination, excuse me. I've never heard that in my life. And we still got the pits of a facility in Ashburn. My high school facilities was better than the facilities that they have in Ashburn. And I know it's going to take time, and that's not a knock on Josh Harris, but that's more so to say that having a guy like Jaden Daniels, having a guy like Adam Peters, and having a guy like Dan Quinn in your building is more important than facility. So, yeah, having that F- report on the NFLPA progress report wasn't, the most ideal thing to have, but when you're winning covers all. Winning is the best cologne. You can have me practicing in a motherfucking storage unit if I'm a Super Bowl contender, and I know that's just me, but like it just emphasizes that. And these reports that came out today, because this isn't the only one, we're going to touch into the other ones that came out later. This shows that like Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, they have real gravity. They have real aura. So give me 1 second, actually, if you guys can bear with me. I want to go to a tweet that I actually had made earlier in the year, if I can find it. Give me 1 second. Let's see if I can find it with this. Here we go. And then, I hate to be the guy to toot our own horn. No, we don't. But on March 14th, I said, I'll be the first to admit that my initial take on Dan Quinn was wrong. I didn't know bro's gravity was this real. This man is friends with everybody. And I think that ties back to some of the reports that we're seeing today. If you go look at Michael Parsons' podcast, he can't go an episode without gushing about Dan Quinn. Trayvon Diggs as well, whenever he's on the podcast. And you hear everybody, not even just players. You hear any coaches that worked with Dan Quinn, Kyle Shanahan, and Raheem Morris. Anybody that's worked with Dan Quinn has told you how he's a football guy through and through, and he's a guy that makes you excited about coming to work. And I think that gravity has really, reinvigorated itself throughout the organization from the top down. Josh Harris, brought in guys like Magic Johnson. Who can say no to Magic Johnson? Like one of the biggest sports icons in American history. We have him on our side. And that's one of the talking points that I had when we first brought Magic Johnson in, is that he's a winner, right? And he attracts winning. We see that his, baseball organization that he has some money tied into in the Los Angeles Dodgers, they just came off of a World Series championship this week. And just having winners on our side completely changes the perception of the organization. And like I said, the proof is in the pudding. You see it with this report from Adam Schefter. And then earlier today, Diana Rossini, who we know is tied in as well from her time with the Washington Post, from her time being, 10 toes down with Scott McLuhan. If you know, you know. But it says that the Washington Commanders, I think she does work with the New York Times and The Athletic now, but it says that the Washington Commanders are calling around in search of a corner, one that Coach Dan Quinn wants a jolt for, and at 6-2, Washington needs help if they want to get past the Philadelphia Eagles and their superb receiver group in the NFC East. So somebody's reporting it. These leaks ain't just coming from nowhere. Somebody's reporting it. And it seems like we're working the back channels to try to improve this roster. And I'm glad to see it because quite honestly, and I love all my Commander fans, but some of y'all tried to come for me a little bit after the Baltimore Ravens game when I made this tweet where I said that Adam Peters needs to go get a corner this week before we waste the season. Now, he didn't go out and get one that week because he doesn't make rash decisions like I do. He's not as emotional as I am, I will admit. But it seems like Adam Peters and Dan Quinn might agree with my sentiment that you need to go out and go get a cornerback to not waste this season. And you know, some of the people, if we could just look at the comments, some of the people tried to come for me talking about, dude, this is a rebuild, this is a recalibration year, and I totally get that. But when I had the new data that had us starting out at 4-2 at this point, that rebuild and that recalibration went out the window. We're competing for a division title on November 2nd, 2024, going into week 9 of an NFL season. We're in the second half of the season, and we're the number 2 seed in the conference. I don't want to hear about a rebuild anymore. I want to take the biggest advantage and the biggest opportunity that I can of the 2024 season where I am contending and where I am competing. And it seems like Adam Peters and Dan Quinn kind of agree with my sentiments as well with the reports that they're snooping around the cornerback position. And if we know Dan Quinn, he's a DB guy. So it was interesting to see the wording that Diana had that, you know, Dan Quinn knows that, you know, the cornerback is the weakest link. Guys, we out here winning games with Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St. Juste. If that don't tell you that Dan Quinn should win Coach of the Year, I don't know what will. If that don't tell you Joe Witt should win Assistant Coach of the Year, I don't know what will. To be quite honest, because I think we got a top 5 pass defense as of right now, and we got corners that couldn't check me on any given Sunday. So I'm super excited to hear this news. And as you know, Adam Peters' report came out. Pro Football Talk had actually mentioned that Marshawn Lattimore could be on the move and could be traded by the deadline. So I think that I just thought that this was interesting that this came out around the similar time that Adam Schefter's report about our Washington Commanders came out as well, with us looking at the cornerback position. And whether it be Marshawn Lattimore, whether it be Denzel Ward, or whether it be J.C. Horn or another guy, a lot of the guys around the NFL will be an improvement over what we have. These are guys that, you know, I think Marshawn Lattimore isn't at his peak, and he isn't in his prime anymore, but he still gives you the ability to play man coverage, something that we know Joe Witt and Dan Quinn want to do, and he gives you the ability to shadow with wide receiver ones, even though he might not do it as the up to the capability that he did in 2017 and 18, 19, and 20. He still does it better than Benjamin St. Juste and Emmanuel Forbes do it on their best days. And I mentioned these guys because if you see on the report on the screen, it says a recent contract extension with Alvin Kamara removed Marshawn Lynch from the center of the speculation, Marshawn Lattimore, and it put Marshawn Lattimore as a magnet for trade chatter in other league circles. And the reason that I mentioned those guys such as Denzel Ward and Marshawn Lattimore, those they're on teams right now that are in cap hell. You know, the Cleveland Browns are paying Deshaun Watson $215 million to damn near to sit at home. And while he was out there, he might as well have been sitting at home because he damn near wasn't as good as a motherfucker that was sitting on his couch every day. And you see the Saints are in cap hell as well, and they still really don't know the future outlook for their quarterback position. So I know that they want to keep their, cap flexibility and, their assets and allocations as open as possible. So that's why I think the biggest reason that Marshawn Lattimore is on the move is not like his play has dropped off where, he's a bum. Or anything of that matter. Mike Evans still has nightmares about Marshawn Lattimore, if I'm being quite honest. And then a guy like J.C. Horn, who I don't think that the Carolina Panthers are eager to move. But when you're such a shitty organization like the Panthers, they're the Washington football organization pre-2023 with their putrid owner and David Tepper. When you got that type of just down badness going on in that organization, and you don't know the future of your quarterback position as well, I can see them kind of shipping off assets that kind of accumulate draft pieces, similar to what Washington did with Chase Young and Montez Sweat at the deadline. But any of those three guys, I think Denzel Ward is elite. I think that he's probably the best corner out of the three that I mentioned on this episode. I know some people have linked us to Jonathan Jones. He's a step down from the three guys that I've mentioned previously, but he's still a step over Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St. Juste. It seems like Adam Peters and Dan Quinn might be sniffing around those DB circles. as well as the wide receiver circles, because I think that T Higgins might be up there for the taking. So yeah, interesting to see this news drop today. And y'all let me know, who do y'all want us to trade for, and at what cost? What do you think is too much for us to give for an elite cornerback talent, an elite wide receiver talent, or elite talent that can help us potentially do what we need to do in the 2024 season, because I'm ready to buy my tickets for New Orleans. So that'll do it for this video. Y'all let me know y'all opinions in the comments. As always, if you're not tuned into our social medias, tap into our social medias at BleedingBNG on Instagram, BleedDing, BNG on Instagram, BleedDing on X. Listening to us on all platforms, audio only for our podcast format. And yeah, I'll check in on you guys on the flip side. Peace.